Hello and welcome to week 3 of Inferno Friday. This is Archon.
And DreadNought.
It is currently 10:13 p.m. on Thursday night, 2 days after the release of Diablo 3. And we just recently hit level 60 about 2 or 3 hours ago. And so we just wanted to share some gameplay with you as we kind of talk about different things we've learned while grinding up to level 60.
And one of those things we learned is that there's no rush to get through Hell mode. Even though Normal and Nightmare are mostly a hack slash and running through everything, killing everything fast, and not focusing on gear as much as leveling, Hell mode is going to be different. In the first act of Hell mode, we realized that it was a little bit more difficult than we were planning on it being. And so a mindset change will help you out a lot when you're starting Hell mode, that you're going to have to use a couple more survivability skills. You're going to have to change your passives up a little bit, and you're going to just want to work on grinding some of that Hell gear out really quickly in the first act of Hell.
Yeah, back in normal mode and a bit in Nightmare, I was able to just focus on doing as much damage as possible, and that was definitely the fastest way to level back then. But as the difficulty has gotten harder and harder, I've noticed that I've had to put on more defensive skills and sacrifice a little bit of damage for utility. And now you can see that Blizzard and Magic Missile is really where my damage is coming from, even though both of those are kind of low DPS skills. But it's really worth the survivability I get from always having either Mirror Image or Diamond Skin up to keep guys off of me and stay alive. Hopefully I'll stay alive here.
You'll notice that it's not easy to do that, and so a lot of the times the DPS is just going to have to keep moving and running. And as the melee, you can't just stay on whatever forces you were attacking at the time, because your damage is also your lifeline, and so you have to move to where your DPS is and throw some stuns and some seismic knockback to keep her safe. And that's the strat that we've adopted starting in Hell mode, just to up our survivability by a huge factor.
Yeah, just having Mirror Image and Diamond Skin has helped a ton. Mirror Image turned out to be a lot more useful than I thought it would, especially with this duplicate rune. It makes 5 copies of me as opposed to 2 that the unruned would make. And then Diamond Skin with the Crystal Shell rune doubles the amount that it absorbs. And so that makes it just really hard for guys to kill me, even though I'm still super squishy. And we'll usually die in about 2 to 3 hits.
And if you're thinking, oh, Diamond Skin and Mirror Image, that's too much defense, then you might want to take another look at your build, because you really only need a couple damage dealers, just one damage dealer that has no cooldown, so that you can always deal damage when you need to. But those defensive abilities and those tactical abilities, they usually have cooldowns. And so if you only have 1 or 2 and you're on cooldown, then you're probably dead. So it's not a big deal if you only have 2 damage abilities. You can still do almost the same amount of damage with only 2 abilities as you can with 6, because you're only using 1 at a time. So you might as well have some of those defensive abilities that require cooldowns, so that you always have 1 that you can use.
It's true. It looks like we have a blue pack here, which is really the real gameplay in the harder difficulties. Most of these blue packs and yellows tend to be harder than the bosses are, but it's really determined on these 3 random skills that they have. It's similar to Diablo 2. The elites and champions will get 3 random buffs, and they're determined from a set of, I think, about a dozen. These guys have Jailer, Extra Health, and Frozen. And so you can see, let's see, we'll wait for an example of it so I can point it out. The jail is that right there, that red orb that comes up around me. And conveniently enough, you can actually get out of that with Mirror Image or Teleport. So having both of those really makes Jailer not that bad. And then Frozen are these little orbs that you see come up. They'll probably come up again soon. And if you get too close to those when they explode, then right there's one of them. Then they'll freeze you in place, and that can be death pretty quick, just because they get some time to beat on you, and you can't take many hits from these guys. Luckily, I don't think they saw me there. And get frozen again. Oh, and that one killed me, unfortunately.
And this is really difficult ability set for the range to deal with because of the jailer. Then they're using the jailer so often that even if you had the teleport, they're using it more often than teleport comes off a cooldown. So sometimes you're gonna have to eat damage.
It's true. One nice thing about these blue packs at level 60, wow, it's getting chained frozen here.
This is a really hard ability set to deal with because they limit so much mobility with the ice and the jailer. And when jailer's up, you have to take advantage of all the time you have to do damage. But with these ice traps up, we have to be moving every time that we're out of jailer. So some of these ability sets are just really difficult and interesting to deal with, and it'll make you want to change your build during the fight because you're thinking, oh, if only I had this ability, I would have survived. But it's better to try and find one ability set that's going to be decent against everything so that you can keep your Nephilim Valor bonus.
Yeah, at level 60, anytime you kill one of these groups or a group of the yellow mobs, then you'll get a buff that lasts for 30 minutes rather, and it increases your gold and magic find by 15%, and it stacks up to 5 times, so you have a maximum of 75% increase to gold and magic find. But it goes away if you ever change your build, so it really incentivizes finding one build that works for all situations, which is not easy to do, but I have been using this one for a while and I really like it. So as you can see, we now have 1 stack of Nephilim Valor, and there's 2 other things that can get rid of your buff other than changing your skills. Also, if you don't kill another elite in 30 minutes, it'll wear off, or if you leave a game, it'll stop. So you can kind of tell that they're encouraging you to continue to play in the same game and continue to progress. If you're not killing fast enough, then this is going to wear off before you're able to kill another elite pack.
There's a rumor that the Nephilim Valor disappears once you die. That's not true. You can die like you've seen us do and keep the bonus.
Yeah, it's almost inevitable in these higher difficulties. You're going to die a couple times on those harder blue and yellow packs that have just bad combinations for your class. Like I said, they can be a lot harder than some of the boss fights. Maybe we'll get to a boss in this video. It doesn't seem likely though, but you'll see they're really not very hard compared to the blue and yellow guys. Another one of the builds, or one of the abilities that I've really liked, is this rune for teleport Wormhole that keeps your cooldown from going off until a second after you've cast your initial teleport, which I assumed had meant you'd be able to do 2 teleports instead of 1. But actually with enough attack speed, it looks like you can do 4 and probably even more. Right now I can do 4, which means I can just move across the map really quickly, pull guys that I shouldn't be pulling. But yeah, it can be really convenient when you're trying to get somewhere quickly or just trying to get out of the way. It just seems overpowered compared to the other runes in my opinion. And another one that I've really liked is Magic Weapon. It's just a buff that you add to your weapon, but since all damage is based on weapon damage, even for wizards, it buffs all of your attacks. So the one I have runed currently gives 15% additional damage to all attacks, and that's just a buff. It lasts 5 minutes. As long as I remember to cast it, then it's just 15% increased damage all the time, which is awesome. It's great use of one skill because it's not something that you have to use to take advantage of. You're just always going to have it. So right now we're lighting these signal fires. Once we have them all lit, then we're going to raise some catapults and murder these guys. Act 3 is a great act for AoE. As you can see right now I'm using Blizzard for my AoE. I could use something that does more damage like Disintegrate, but the advantage of Blizzard is that I can cast it and then run, and on held difficulty I pretty much have to be running all the time. Looks like we got a yellow, but I have been accidentally picking up whites and grays from misclicking. There we go.
One of the things I focus on for survivability, apart from my stuns, which is actually probably my main survivability, is stacking Lifesteal. I use a two-handed weapon instead of a shield, and I focus on damage dealt percentage life increase, so that the more damage I do, the more life I get back. This works especially well if you have a lot of vitality, even though I don't believe that going pure vitality is a very good survivability option, just because a lot of times when you're getting life, you're not being healed to full anyway. Your healing potions always heal for less than half of your max life, and the health orbs aren't going to heal you max life. So a lot of times having a bunch of vitality is only going to save you from really big one-shots. So it's probably worth it to focus more on physical elemental reduction and armor and some dodge and other types of damage mitigation, instead of just trying to absorb all the damage, because it's just too much damage to absorb.
Yeah, one thing that I was surprised about was the need to have an AoE spell and a single target spell in my build all the time. I kind of thought I'd have a single target build and an AoE build and switch between them during leveling, but I found out very quickly that most pulls require a good AoE and single target. And since having two DPS abilities that drain Arcane can be a little wasteful, it's nice to have one of your primary abilities as either the AoE and DPS, or AoE or single target rather. And right now you can see I'm using Magic Missile. I'm using the Charge Bolt rune, and it actually does some really good damage with that rune to single targets. So it allows me to only have one of my secondary builds, or skills rather, and still do some decent single target damage. Here we are lighting Signal Fire number 2, I believe. We have 5 total. Don't think we'll make it through all of them in this video. I kind of just wanted to give you an idea of what level 60 is like, share with you some of the stuff that we've learned on our way to 60, and give you a little bit of gameplay. We'll be releasing another video next week, and we want to know what you guys want us to talk about. So if you have any questions about leveling to 60, or just some advice or something that you want to hear more about, please leave it in the comments below, and we're going to try to address all the comments if possible in next week's video.
One of the questions I know a lot of people have is considering the stats, because there's so many different pieces of gear that have really strange different stat qualities because they're randomized stats, and sometimes it's hard to figure out which stats you should really be focusing on, and that does get complex and it takes a long time to talk about. Mostly just not getting into the habit of only stacking your primary attribute, because you need some of those multipliers, like your attack speed increase, damage increase. Main DPS on your weapon is the biggest factor, and your primary is also important, but it has diminishing returns. So
it's true. Yeah, I didn't realize how important weapon damage was, even as a wizard, until probably most of the way through Nightmare, until I started getting some high weapon damage weapons instead of focusing just on intellect, and my damage just shot to the roof. It's really not uncommon to get a new weapon and have your damage double instantly. But that's about it. We wanted to share with you some tips. We hope you've enjoyed this video. We're going to be sharing another video every week. Hopefully we'll be to Inferno soon. But we've been told that there's a huge jump in difficulty from Hell to Inferno, and Hell's already been pretty challenging. So we'll probably have a few more videos on Hell. Again, we want to share whatever you guys want to hear about, so please let us know. And soon enough, we'll be sharing some Inferno strats. So stay tuned, and if you haven't subscribed yet, you can do so by clicking the button at the top of this video, and that way you'll get our videos as soon as they're ready. It looks like we found another yellow. So we're going to sign out, and we'll let you know next week if we're able to kill this yellow without wiping 15 times.
Small chance.
Alright, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week.